If we can't find a spare computer around to be able to access the network, a backup plan that we have is actually we'll have different types of USB drives, and these drives sometimes they will be a real USB with like a Word document on it that if somebody enables macros, it will bypass their antivirus or their EDR solution, and it will phone home back to us. Normally we do this in a couple different ways. We'll either try to leave it in kind of a common area, so it kind of looks like, oh, common area, this must have fallen out of someone's pocket, or we'll try to leave it by entry and exit doors. We're finding that to be successful just because it's kind of when someone may be looking for their car keys and, you know, reach in your car keys and USB drive falls out. We'll give these documents interesting, juicy names, something that if a common employee picks it up, it's going to be something that they want to open, such as salary benefit or salary information for employees for the years 2020, 2021. Like they're going to want to open that, or new COVID guidelines or layoff information. They're going to open it, and even if it says like you enable macros, if we make it seem good enough, you'll be surprised what some employees will do to see that type of information. Another actual different style of attack that we have is we have little USB drives that are actually mini computers. So it has a microchip on it instead of a storage chip on it. And so we leave those around in hopes that somebody will plug it into their computer when it's unlocked. And what that does is it actually launches some code directly into their computer. It acts as their keyboard and virtually types on their keyboard. And what it does is it goes out to our cloud servers, our attacker cloud servers, pulls down our malicious software, and we'll try to install and run it. And usually we can configure it so that it can get past most antivirus and can get past some, not all, EDR solutions. That way they just plug it in, and to them it just looks like, oh, that was weird, there was a hiccup on my computer, and they don't realize that it actually downloaded something in the background. So another good place to place USB drives besides around employee computers or around doors is also in parking lots. So we can place them around in parking lots in hopes that, again, people will see and think, oh, this must be somebody who works here. Let me plug it in and see if I can return it to them. And so that will often work as a attack vector to get somebody to plug in a USB drive. Yeah, so for crafting a malicious payload, which is some sort of malicious software that will do what we as the attackers or good guy hackers want it to do, it's kind of more of an art, and well, it's an art and a science. And it's one of those things that just takes a little bit of an understanding of what the operating system is really doing, takes a good understanding of how systems talk to each other, what are they doing, and then just looking at that and saying, all right, how can I craft something that can look similar but do the malicious things that I also want to do, and do it in a way that isn't going to raise any alarms or is going to bypass the alarm bells that your typical antivirus or EDR solution would have. So it's a little bit of an art and science, and it's a fun, interesting cat and mouse game where it seems like every single month there's a new tactic that comes out, and then the companies catch up, and then the companies may be ahead for a little bit, and then there'll be a new technique again, and the bad guys will have an advantage again. And it's this constant back and forth. So it's one of those things where you always need some sort of antivirus, you need some sort of endpoint protection on your systems. But it's not the catch-all of all security. You need to go a little bit beyond that to make sure that you are secure. A shell is kind of hacker speak for a terminal or a command prompt, that little black box that you can sometimes see the IT guys bring up where they type in their commands. It's what gives us a keyboard control of the computer and a way to instruct the computer to do what we want it to do behind the scenes that you won't be able to see. So if we have a shell, that's just our term of remote control. So we always want to get a shell on a computer because that means that we can now remotely control that computer and tell it to do our commands instead of what the user can still do what they're trying to do, but they can still run our commands in the background. So yeah, detonating a malicious payload, which is a term for essentially plugging in that USB drive or downloading that email attachment and then clicking the run or enable content. What that does is that allows the attacker's code to run. So there's multiple steps in an attack chain for us to actually be successful. And that is a very important one, because if somebody just plugs in the USB and doesn't open the document, or they don't actually enable the macros, or if they download an email but they don't download the attachment, yeah, they opened the email, yeah, they read it, but the malicious code can never move on to the next step of actually running. So it's very important that we can actually get the payloads to detonate, that we can get somebody to double click and run our code, because that allows us to move on along the kill chain and hopefully move from detonating the payload to running the payload to downloading additional code to being able to call back to our attacker cloud servers and just moving along. And it's that first step that we need to accomplish somehow, so the rest of the steps can fall over like dominoes.